All right. As Americans struggle with record high gas prices, President Joe Biden is calling on oil companies to boost production and help lower the cost at the pump. In a scathing letter this morning to the CEOs of top U.S. oil refineries, Biden said they are taking advantage of the crisis as their profits have tripled. Biden said his administration is prepared to take any, quote, reasonable and appropriate steps that would help companies increase their output in the near term. Joining us now, U.S. Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm. Good to have you on the show this morning. So tell us more about what exactly he's asking the oil companies to do. And I just wonder if the president needs to sort of level with the American people about the situation, the energy situation globally, and how it's impacting gas prices here at home. Because isn't it the case that some of this he cannot control?
Oh, totally, Mika. I mean, there's so much that is beyond any leader in the globe's control. Unless they own state-owned enterprises that are producing gasoline. So oil is traded at today about $120 a barrel, and that price is being paid by people in Japan. It's being paid by people in Europe. I mean, in fact, gas prices today over $5 a gallon in the United States. If you were in Canada, you would be paying over $6.20, something like that. If you were in Germany, you'd be paying $8 a gallon. If you were in Singapore, you'd be paying $9 a gallon. It's happening all across the world. But the United States is the largest producer of oil and gas, and the president feels like we've got an additional responsibility. We as a country, but really our oil and gas producers have a responsibility. We're on a war footing. The price of oil, the price of gas is precipitating the high cost, the high percentage of inflation around the world. And so he's asking upon our domestic and international producers to produce more. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused the price of gas in the United States to go up $1.70 a gallon since the invasion occurred. So oil and gas companies who are part of a global community need to understand that we need to make up for the amount of Russian barrels of oil that have come off the market since that invasion, because countries like the United States rightfully have said we are not going to purchase Russian oil. So the bottom line is he's calling for an increase in production, both of producing and extracting oil, but also refining it to make sure that we can have gasoline at the pump.
So, Secretary Granholm, so much of this, though, is market-driven. I mean, there's a reason why oil companies aren't producing as much as we'd like them to produce right now, and that's because the demand was driven down so much by COVID, and it takes a while to crank it back up. I mean, and so I guess I go back to what Mika's saying. Shouldn't the president just level with the American people and say, here's the problem? There was less of a demand during 2 years of COVID. It takes a while to ramp demand up. And we also have another problem in this country. We don't have enough oil refineries because the regulations around oil refineries in the United States have choked off the ability to do exactly what we need to do right now.
Well, let me just say, Joe, it's not the regulations around oil refineries. 80% of the oil refining came off the market before Joe Biden took office. It's a global issue as well. It's not just a regulatory issue. Some of those refineries flipped over to do biofuels. And the president is saying, you know, in March, just as an example, Joe, in March, the price of oil per barrel on the global market was about $120. And in March, people in the United States were paying about $4.25 a gallon. Today, the price of oil on the global market's about $120. Same price, but we're paying 75 cents or more at the pump. Why is that? And so the president is just asking these refiners, which are of course owned by these oil and gas companies, to increase supply. And if you can't, tell us how we can help to make sure that we increase supply in the way we can. Plus, Mika, just quickly, I mean, in terms of what the president does have at his disposal, he does have the biggest tool ever, which is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And he is releasing 1 million barrels a day to try to make up for some of that lost supply. But you are right. It is a private market. It's a global market. It's a capitalistic market. We're not against profit. It's just that when you have 225% increase in profit year over year in Q1, I mean, it just tells you something else is going on.
So when you ask the oil companies, tell us how we can help, I mean, isn't the issue not just increased production right now, but permanent solutions so that we're not dependent and the world isn't dependent and being held hostage right now by the Russian invasion of Ukraine? You know, my brother was telling me he's headed to Latvia in June for the 3Cs summit. He's heading up that summit, and it's working on the energy dimension of getting them completely energy independent in these Central European countries, interconnected. And isn't that more relevant than ever? Because right now, if you levy a sanction on Russia, it's going to hurt the country, too, that's levying the sanction. And it's going to be an ongoing process with Russia until we cut ties.
Yeah, you obviously understand this very well, Mika. I mean, clearly, when the EU is deciding to cut off Russian supply of oil and gas, that too causes a crimp in supply, and it causes prices to go up. So, to your point, yes, ultimately, the solution to make us energy secure, to make the Baltic states energy secure, to make the entire world energy secure, is to move to clean energy. No country has ever been held hostage to access to the sun or to access to the wind. Ultimately, those are the price volatility continues to, at least on clean energy, there's no volatility. It continues to drop. We're not under the thumb of petro-dictators, and ultimately that is the solution. But in the immediate, we know that people are hurting, and we've got to increase supply wherever we can globally, including in the United States, to make sure that we try to moderate the barrels that have been pulled up by the war in Ukraine.